Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Thomas, and I discuss my near-death experience, the things I learned, and the things I think you should know. So I'm going to be reading from my notes, so if it sounds scripted or I'm looking away from the camera, that's why. So today I wanted to touch on something that I'm sure you're interested in, and something that affects us all, and that is heaven. I'm not sure why I haven't talked about it yet, but I've had a couple viewers ask me to do a video on heaven, so I thought I should go ahead and get it done. With this YouTube, like most of my videos, I didn't want what scholars say about heaven to impact my understanding of what I was shown during my near-death experience. In that way, I believe you get a clearer, more truthful account of what heaven is actually like. I believe heaven, at least to some degree, is highly personal and different for each being. And this was just my experience, so take it with a grain of salt. First, I'd like to apologize to my viewers for calling heaven boring. When I said that, I meant only that heaven is not a place that you stay for all of eternity, although I suppose you absolutely could, but instead life is where it's at. I absolutely had a wonderful time while I was there, spending time in the library in heaven and spending time with my angel Sarah. Studying there with Sarah was one of the most wonderful times my soul has ever had, and it helped me to rediscover my passion for life. So with that, let's get into the subject of heaven. First, you should know that heaven is inside each of us. Heaven is where Jesus resides, as a place that is not completely physical, but it is also not completely immaterial. It is somewhere between the physical and etheric realms. While I was there, I met with Jesus in private, and it was the only time Sarah had to leave my side, though I had asked her to come into the room where Jesus was in order to alleviate the fear I felt during my NDE. And I gotta say, even though there was this profound sense of peace, there was also this fear that I had that I really couldn't explain. So I had to wait in line to meet with Jesus, and while I was waiting, I felt incredibly ashamed of how I was dressed, as I had just thrown on whatever to go to the emergency room where I was when my angel showed up. So I was given a pure white, clean linen robe to wear while I was there. I also felt really horrible that I didn't have a gift to give to Jesus or to God, but I was told not to worry and that no one ever has a gift to give to God, and that any gift I would give him would be the utilization of the gifts that he had given me. The room where I met Jesus was bare, and the floor was cool or even cold. There were no windows or torches like elsewhere in heaven, and it was dimly lit, though there was light coming from somewhere. The buildings were all built with this bluish-white, crystalline marble-like material. It's a material that I've never seen before. And it was built out of these square tiles that were about 1 meter square. And all the buildings were accented by gold and lit by torches. So there was also a sort of wooden altar between me and Jesus, but otherwise the room was pretty much bare. And so I really can't talk about heaven without talking about Jesus, and I don't want to offend anyone, but he was a big part of my near-death experience. I saw that he sat on one of the 3 thrones in heaven, and everyone there celebrates him. There are angels that sing hallelujah and of the Lord. He is a jovial, friendly man that put me at ease the moment I met him. While I met with Jesus, I remember crying and tearing at my robe I had been given. I even threw myself on the floor in humility, begging that he allow me to come back. He said that if it were up to him, he'd send me back that moment, but that there was a council that I had to convince that I deserved to be allowed back into my physical body. So I was shown that there's this council of beings that oversees every planet. And there is a council that oversees humanity. And that's going to be another subject, because Stephen Hawking was there, and it was kind of like one of us could come back, but we both had to go to court. So before I met, and what's interesting is that Stephen Hawking passed within hours or days of my near-death experience. So before I met with Jesus, when I first arrived in heaven, there was a huge celebration in a sort of courtyard where all the beings in heaven celebrated my arrival. Everyone was excited for my arrival, and songs were sung, and there was music and food. I inexplicably saw myself on one of 3 tall gunmetal gray thrones in the center of the courtyard. I felt so undeserving, and I still don't know why I was on a throne. It's really something that baffles me and brings up a lot of self-worth issues. So Jesus was on the throne next to me, and all the people were saying something like, "Finally, the empty throne has someone to fill it." I don't know why I was deserving of such treatment and of a throne. I am learning from this experience to use the gifts God gave me to help people so that I don't feel undeserving this next go-around. So at this point, I was given a halo to wear while I was in heaven. I was told to guard and cherish my halo as it was a sign of profound respect. Most of my time was spent in a vast library of scrolls studying. All the knowledge of the universe was available to me. The library had incredibly tall, vaulted ceilings, and I should point out, all knowledge is just a thought away, so studying in a library is just studying for studying's sake. So the library was in the courtyard where the 3 thrones were. The main hall was incredibly well lit with this beautiful natural light that almost seemed supernatural. When I asked how there was so much light, I was explained that the windows were coated with a special material. The coating was so that people could see better in order to read and study the scrolls. I believe this was a technology that the Greeks and Egyptians possessed, but that was lost to time. There were also frescoes on the ceilings, and where the giant tall shelving was with the scrolls, there were intricate stained glass windows that were created with techniques again lost to mankind. The fittings of the windows were made of gold and not brass like cathedrals here on earth. I remember marveling at their beauty. I spent a lot of time studying, days even. Sarah would come study with me and would get bored, leave and do her own thing, and then come back to check on me. There was day and night in heaven, and the library would close at night. It had only natural lighting and was not lit by torches like some of the other buildings and areas. And I believe this is just for practical reasons, like you can't have torches in a library. So Sarah would come get me as night came and tell me it was time to go. And I didn't want to leave most days. I was having a lot of fun learning. I would also like to say that angels are absolutely real, and there is a hierarchy to the angelic realm. They reside in heaven, among other places. Your guardian angels are always with you in good times and bad. My angels were very serious, but warmed up to me over time. Like Jesus, they are jovial, loving, affable beings with a profound sense of humor. They're probably laughing at me right now. There was a beautiful music that plays in heaven outside the buildings, and I remember that we followed the music to heaven from somewhere out in space when Sarah and I were on our way to meet with Jesus. It was the most beautiful music I've ever heard, and was drowned out by the cheers of the people celebrating my arrival in heaven. We had followed the music to heaven. It was somehow more than music, though. It was also vibration, and I understood it to be coming from God. And I understood that it connected us all. It is also why I am so into Himalayan singing bowls since my near-death experience. I remember there were tan rolling hills on our way to heaven and civilizations that dotted the landscape as we flew over them on our way to and into heaven. I remember there was a tall golden fence with an open golden gate that we flew through. These gates were incredibly tall, multiple stories even, that stretched as far as the eye could see in both directions. We were flying, but the gates and fence were as high as we were. The council that oversees humanity resides in a heavenly court and is staffed by souls that have shown excellent judgment and the ability to show restraint and fairness across 2 or more lifetimes, though there are many criteria with which Jesus uses to determine whom he selects to serve on the council. Some of the souls have also served as guardian angels, at some point before being selected for the council. The beings that reside in heaven may choose to come and go as they please, as I have done. I was told that I am allowed back into heaven when the time is right. They may travel the physical, semi-physical, and immaterial realms as they so choose and desire. All the knowledge of the universe is available to them. Heaven serves as a sort of home to all souls, and all humanity is at some point welcomed into heaven. Jesus oversees heaven, and it is his home. When I met with God, I met with Jesus. So to me, Jesus is God, at least in my experience. And again, I don't want to offend anyone. All right, so that's it for today. I hope that it has in some way helped you. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as your support is much appreciated. Much love and peace. Namaste.